We want to make sure that we provide, these kind of pathways for OIT student ambassadors gaining these really valuable skills. And then also just providing you with opportunities to connect, to meet with alumni, and to network and build those relationships, those partnerships, even after they leave, if they're open to answering questions, which that's why you're here, right? To be able to answer questions for our current students and provide really good insights and valuable advice as to what you should consider when you're working through your college career and then after the hilltop. So thank you so much for being here. Well, we'll go ahead and dive right into introductions to our panelists. We do have Edith Valle here with us. So hi, Edith. You want to wave there really quickly? She currently is the art director for Deeds Not Words, and she, her previous supervisor was Eric Trimble. Thanks for coming, Eric. And myself, we also, Edith worked for me for a few years and then with Eric as well. We also have Patty Valle here with us. And she currently is the digital asset coordinator at Four Hands. Her previous supervisor was with Eric. Hi, Patty. Good to see you back. And then we also have Tim Yunkin with us here. He's currently out in Dallas right now. A graphic designer at Parks Associates, and his previous supervisors were Yasmin Yahya and Jesse Plazas. Hi, Yasmin. And then we also have Audrey here with us. Audrey Griffin, she's currently the Archive and Museum Exhibits Assistant at the Texas Medical Association. And previous supervisors, Travis. Hi, Travis in the back. And then last but not least, we have Gerardo Chapa with us here, and he's currently the marketing program manager at APM IQ. Anthem, excuse me. Thank you for correcting me. And his previous supervisor was Danny Leventi. So thank you all so much for being here. Of course. So let's go ahead and get started. I provided a little bit of your introductions, and we'll start with Edith, if you don't mind.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I also regret not being able to be there in person. Myself, as well as Pati, if you haven't noticed, we're sisters. We actually both got the flu. So we're kind of dealing with that right now. But a little bit about me. I was born in Austin, Texas. I grew up in Elgin, Texas, just 30 minutes from St. Edwards. I went to St. Edwards because of the camp program. So you might already heard of camp. We're actually celebrating our 50th anniversary. And because of camp, a lot of students who have background in either migrant farm work or their families or parents have done migrant farm work are given the opportunity to get that scholarship and get basically free tuition to the university. And they also provide a lot of resources and support for students who are first generation college students. So I had two older sisters that also went to St. Edwards on the same scholarship. So to me, it looked like it was a really great opportunity. So I just decided to follow in their footsteps, but also carve my own path at the same time. And so at St. Edwards, I studied graphic design. And, OIT just felt like a natural fit as far as, finding a job on campus. And at OIT, I was actually there when it was still at Moody Hall. I don't even remember what it's called anymore, but Moody Hall. And then it moved over to another place, Fremont Hall, if I can remember correctly. I never got to be there when it was in the library and all the like really cool fancy stuff got there. But anyways, when I was at OIT, I got to design, I think I maybe skipped ahead, but you just wanted to know more about what I'm doing right now, right? After that.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I worked at OIT, but anyways, right now I am currently the art director at a local nonprofit called Deeds Not Words. We're actually statewide, and we're a civic engagement nonprofit that works on building up the skills of young people who are really passionate about issues that affect their communities and how to affect change in their own communities. So I also work with a lot of artists. So we have an art department, and I developed a residency program where we also train artists to use art to communicate to broader audiences about these issues that they care about, and also, use the messaging that we have, so they can learn how to talk about those issues and inspire others to take those issues on. And so that's only one part. I also have a zine that I have developed at the organization. And so through the zine, we connect a lot of the young people to policy that may be affecting them. As y'all know, I don't know if you've ever tried reading a bill or, all those websites that, like at the Capitol, that are telling you what's going on and what legislation is start trying to be passed, but it's very difficult to read and very hard to understand. And so I work with a lot of people who like to take that language and make it more accessible. And on top of that, we use imagery, design, and illustration to engage more young readers. So it's a project I'm really passionate about and that I really enjoy. And on the side, I also do like more freelance projects where I do more of my illustration and painting work. So it's really fun and fulfilling. And I think definitely being at St. Edward's has helped me reach to be where I am today. So I'm excited to share more about that, but I'll pass it on to the next person for now.
Thank you so much, Edith. Yeah, and you're also a published children's book illustrator is what I've learned as well. I just ordered books, so that's exciting. For my daughters, and I do also have your artwork in my daughter's faces, which is exciting with your work through Jolt, which I was so happy to see some of your work there. So thank you, Edith, for sharing all of that. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Bhakti, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself. And the questions are on the screen there, so if you forget what I asked, please go ahead and refer to those questions that you see.
Yeah, okay. Hi, my name is Patty, also Patricia. I'm obviously related to Edith. She kind of explained, we have similar stories, and she's my older sister. I'm also from Austin, Texas, and grew up in Elgin. So I follow in my 3 older sisters' footsteps, basically. So what I do now is that I work at Forehands as a digital asset coordinator, and I do a lot of Photoshop and stuff. I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm also pretty sick, as Edith said. But essentially what I do is manage a lot of assets. When I worked at OIT, I worked at Doyle and then at Monday Library. So I did get to use all the nice equipment that Edith probably didn't get to use. So I took advantage of a lot of those tools that we got provided. But essentially, I think OIT helped me a lot with like just learning a lot of how to use a lot of tools like with Photoshop. I know we got to use a lot of Creative Cloud when I worked there. And I was able to help a lot of students with how to use those tools. That was my main job up there. I also got to photograph a lot of on-campus events. So I would say that helped me a lot in just learning how to use my camera, as I was a photo communication student. But that was really good for me, since I worked for pretty much all of college and also during the summers. But sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked. Since I still have my teams pulled up for work. But another good thing about working at OIT for me was that Eric was really into photography as well. So he would let me use a lot of equipment. And I would say that was probably one of my biggest advantages while working there, since I, as a student, did not own a lot of equipment. So I was able to use a lot of DSLRs from the library, and I got to use all the software up there. And then just like with video making, I got to use like the recording room. And sometimes I was able to play with the Ableton, which was really cool. So I learned a lot while working up there, and I think I had an advantage over other students while I was working up in the Digital Media Center. So I feel like it was a really good opportunity, and I would not be where I am today without having worked there, since I still use I use most of the skills I learned up there in my job now. My job isn't like, I work at a furniture company, so it's definitely not as cool as what Edith does, but occasionally I get to photograph a lot of the zines, so we collaborate, and that's really fun to do on the side. I also do photography still on the side, even though it's not my main thing. On the side, I get to photograph with friends, or I still do events every now and then if I have time. But it was really, really important to me to be able to still do photography, and I really enjoyed working there.
Thank you so much, Patty. We're going to move on to Tim.
Hi, everybody. My name is Timothy Nguyen. So I graduated from St. Edward's University last spring in 2021 with a BA in writing. So I come from Houston, Texas. I probably should have prefaced with that. But I went to St. Edward's initially for the variety of programs that they offered, and because I wanted to pursue a career in writing. But halfway through, I kind of discovered like graphic design and stuff and really fell in love with it. And so what happened was I continued pursuing the BA, but I kind of pivoted a lot of my coursework and extracurriculars towards learning as much design as I could. And one of the opportunities that popped up was OIT was hiring a graphic designer. So I applied for the position. I got in. I started working as a graphic design specialist for OIT. During that time, I really learned a lot about. I learned to really apply a lot of what I was learning because they offered a lot of variety in projects. So, for example, one day I had to create like a map of campus. Another day I had to create some like isometric illustrations, some posters, even these Zoom backgrounds. So you see this goat background I have right now, I created this. And so having that variety of experience allowed me to really experiment, try new things, learn as much as I could about Illustrator as a program, you know, the Adobe suite. And on top of that, it also just offered a great space to be in. So when I was working for OIT, I was in Moody Hall, and in the inside of Moody Hall where OIT is, there was like a room, like a really dark room with a bunch of computers and stuff where I did my design work. And like there was Jesse, and there was another coworker, his name is Tate Sarazinski. He was also there, but it was just in like this really dark room. I had like a nice ultra wide monitor, which is my first time ever using that, and then full access to the Adobe suite. And that was kind of just like what felt like a big playground for me. So yeah, it was a really, really great time. There was also a fantastic snack room constantly. That was how I got introduced to sparkling water. And I haven't stopped drinking it ever since. I have a Topo Chico right here. But after I graduated from St. Edward's University, I then applied for some jobs in Austin. I started working at a print shop for a little while, and then I accepted a job offer for a company here in Dallas called Parks Associates, where I currently work as the in-house graphic designer. My job responsibility here currently is that I create and design a lot of the print collateral and digital collateral. So everything from like social media posts to like white papers to posters, PowerPoints, just a lot of different tasks that I have to design. I'm also working on refreshing the brand a little bit. So the branding is a little bit outdated, and so is the website, but I've been working with a lot of people here to try and upgrade the look of the company and such. So I would definitely say that OIT though is or was very invaluable in my experience in shaping me as a versatile graphic designer, because I wouldn't have learned to apply a lot of my skill set without the resources that OIT offered.
That sounds like some exciting things that you all are accomplishing at this time. So thank you, all of you that have contributed virtually. I'm going to go ahead and we have you here in person. So Audrey, let's go ahead and start with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Audrey Griffin. I am originally from Dallas, Texas, and I came to St. Edward's because I wanted to stay in Texas. I didn't want to go too far away, but I wanted to experience a new city. And when I first toured St. Edward's, I really fell in love with the campus and the community. It just seemed like everybody wanted to be here, which felt different from some of the other schools that I toured. I was a history major and a political science minor. I graduated in December of last year, of 2021. And while I was in an OIT, I worked in the Monday Library Archives and Special Collections under Travis Williams. And I was brought in to do a very specific project, which was to digitize the Wild Basin Wilderness Preserve collection. And I really enjoyed doing that. It was one of the first opportunities I had to really be in an archive and do hands-on independent work related to that. Right now, I am actually holding two positions. So I work at the Texas Medical Association as the Archive and Museum Exhibits Assistant. So the Texas Medical Association serves physicians all over Texas, providing them with a variety of resources. And one of those is that they have a pretty small archive of rare medical books, medical equipment that physicians have donated, and then also the history of the medical association. So magazines going back for a really long time, all their minutes from meetings, things like that. And I'm kind of the dedicated person taking care of that. Right now I'm trying to kind of revitalize it, make it more organized and accessible. And then we also have a small gallery, so I'm in charge of organizing our little mini exhibits that we have down there in our lobby. And then I also work for the Texas State Law Library, which is at the Capitol attached to the Supreme Court. And there I'm a technical services assistant, so that has a lot to do with circulation, bringing books into the collection and processing those. And yeah, really enjoying it.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Gerardo. I am originally from Monterrey, Mexico, and I moved here when I was about 10 to Austin. So grew up here in Austin and decided to go to St. Edward's because it kind of offered the mix of the things that I was looking for. I was actually a business major. I majored in finance. As I started my journey here, I started transitioning. I've always loved computer science, and I was trying to learn computer science on my own outside of school. When I realized that I could just do that within my college education, I started to take classes for it and eventually minored in computer science as well. At OIT, I actually started getting engaged with the IT program because David was actually through a program here when I was a freshman, I got linked with David as a mentor. So we started having conversations, and we still have those conversations today. So it's been a really great relationship that I've been able to develop here on campus. And through that, I worked initially as a project manager, working kind of in design for the hackathon that we used to run here. So that's what I did as a freshman. I did a lot of graphic design, social media management. I stepped off and did a couple of internships off campus, and my senior year, or junior to senior year, I decided to come back to OIT. Danny was looking for someone to help with budgeting procurement, which was his department. So I started just kind of doing a lot of the tasks that Dan needed me to do. I was studying finance and I liked IT, so it was kind of the perfect mix. I think IT is very special because it kind of operates on a project basis for the majority of the time. So there's going to be responsibilities that you have on a day-to-day to do. There's also a lot of opportunity to do all sorts of different projects. And some of the projects that me and Danny worked on were actually for campus vibrancy, is what the initiative was called at the time, which, as David or Danny mentioned, was doing shows at the Jones Center and being able to showcase new tech on campus and just being able to essentially do cool projects to you know, showcase tech and showcase how awesome St. Ed's is. So that was a really, really fun avenue for me to kind of project manage and just kind of dive into different areas. What I do now, I took kind of the mix of things that I was good at here, which was the graphic design, the project management, my computer science background, and started applying it to the startup internship that I was working on. I had 2 internships, one here and one at the current startup that I work at now. As a senior, I started doing a lot of project management for them, which essentially just meant just managing all types of projects across just whatever they needed help with or putting fires out. I would start just helping out with that. Eventually I started transitioning into the role that I'm in now. I have a background in computer science. I'm more of a web designer, and I do a lot of front end. So right now my job is kind of a combination between what we call program management, which is essentially a lot of projects, just a combination of projects, and I'll do some web design on the side, I'll do some development on the side. So right now I'm just managing all our entire marketing team, which has been really rewarding. And I think the biggest takeaway that I took from my time at OIT is if you have the opportunity to work somewhere, especially that does recurring projects, you have some sort of leeway to put your mark on each of those projects. Because the nature of projects is that they're getting created on the spot. You have a lot of opportunity to take what you like and take what you're good at and apply it to that project. And from the team, last of all, I'll say, like from the team that we have at IT, I think it's a really special department. I think all of the people that work here really want to help the students, and you can see that just through all their initiatives. So I encourage everyone to just like reach out to whoever your supervisor is. They need help. I assure you, so whatever you guys want to help that you're not doing and you think would be fun, they're really going to appreciate it. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. It's so exciting to see and hear all of what you learned from OIT and how you're applying it to your current roles. And hopefully, you know, those of you that are in the audience are able to, you know, connect with them and ask them questions, even if they're not in the industry that you're interested in, really just tapping into asking those questions, which we'll have time for later. But we'll move on to the next question. We have another set of questions that we'd like to kind of run through. Many of you mentioned a little bit about your experiences in OIT and some of the skills that you gained in working for OIT, so we won't go into that too much. But if you could just share with us some insight or, you know, things that stuck with you, or possibly some sort of memorable experience that has helped you move through your career, even if it's early in your career. So some memories, some story that you'd like to share, and some sort of further insights. You've already shared some insights, but further insights that you can share with our student ambassadors. And we'll go back around. So back to you, Edith.
Yeah, I honestly want to say, I feel like the very first one of the very first projects I did at OIT, I think you gave me, Joanna, and it was to create instructional videos on how to do certain things in, in the Adobe Creative Cloud. So I think I did like a few videos on like how to export a PDF in InDesign, or like how to do like, random things in either Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, or InDesign. And I remember being a little feeling a little unqualified for that task, just because I was learning those things at the same time as like I was trying to make those videos. But it was a really good way to reinforce what I was learning, in my classes. And also, because I was able to learn it, but also like to use the instructional videos as a way to teach other people, and also like make sure I taught myself. So that was really cool. I think that experience, or that learning that skill, or just reinforcing like what I learned by teaching others, is something that I do right now, because I mentor a lot of artists. And so I'm also always trying to teach them how to learn different skills. And we have our own workshops. And basically a lot of design is, breaking down hard information and making it accessible to people. And so I think that's like one really big skill that, even though I don't make instructional videos, I feel like I take on a lot of teaching when it comes to my job as well. And I also, I find that really valuable, and something that I like to take seriously, especially when it comes to, teaching young people. I'm young too. I only graduated in 2016, but I think because in the design industry, to get like really real, it was really hard to see, more people that look like me in this industry, especially in Austin. And so when there's like, young designers who might not see people like them as often, I definitely feel like I take that very seriously. And so giving them, uplifting people through teaching and opportunity is, I think, a value that I gained from OIT for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one experience, or a few experiences I remember, is that when I worked at OIT, Eric always assigned me to like go photograph the hackathons every year. So I was always at every hackathon photographing, and as well as like on campus events for OIT, Capital Factory. I was always the photographer for that. So even now I still get booked to photograph events. And I mean, like, that's just easy to do because I got all that experience while working at OIT. But yeah, I would say that was probably the most memorable. And also I learned about my favorite camera lenses because I got to borrow them from Eric. That 24 to 70 lens is one that I own now too. But yeah, I would say that's probably the most memorable for me.
For me, I think like my biggest sort of takeaway from working at OIT was really just I don't want to say go crazy, but what I mean is like experiment, like experiment, challenge yourself, push yourself. So, with OIT, with each assignment that they gave me, I really took each one as an opportunity to go out of my comfort zone and create something that I had never tried before. And so, for example, there was one assignment where they gave me like a PowerPoint, or not a PowerPoint, but like these 3 graphics that I had to revise and represent a little differently. And I took that as an opportunity to try my hand at isometric design, which is like you kind of look at things like 3 different angles at the same time. I don't really know how to describe it very well, but each time they gave me an assignment, I wanted to experiment with textures, experiment with clipping masks this time, or how can I incorporate like my own hand-drawn illustration into it, just really taking each opportunity as a chance to challenge myself, because I feel like the only way you can learn is by constantly doing things that you've never done before. And so with that, I would advise that don't get stuck in, I don't want to say stagnation, but like constantly challenge yourself. Don't settle for comfort or repetition. And that's something that OIT gave me a good opportunity with, was like, you know, giving me a lot of different assignments and encouraging me to take on assignments that I'd never done before, even thought about doing, stuff that even I had learned about in classes. You know, I was forced to learn when I was working for OIT with some of the assignments that they were giving me. So yeah, just, you know, do whatever you can and take each opportunity to challenge yourself and push your aesthetic forward. You know, that can definitely apply outside of the creative arts. You know, when you meet people and stuff that you've when you meet people in like other disciplines or see opportunities in other people, what they can give you and talk to you and such, it just sort of like nudge your way towards opportunities that you might not have thought you could do.
I was working in the archive. I feel like I learned and developed a lot of skills that I use daily now at my job. And what really stuck out to me was I feel like Travis really created a great environment for me to be able to learn and grow independently. So he would set out instructions on a task that I was going to do, pretty basic instructions. And instead of, you know, telling me each little step, he gave me the opportunity to go through things on my own, but he was always there if I needed to ask a question. And I feel like he's still there if I need to ask any questions. But I just really enjoyed being in the archive and the bonds that I made with, you know, my coworkers, everybody that works at the library, especially Travis and Molly. And yeah, I just think it was a great experience.
Try to explore. You are going to have the opportunity to do a lot of different projects. So try to dive in, try to find something unique that you can bring to the table for that specific project. I would also say IT is so important these days because regardless of what your major is in, and from like all the panelists, like we all have different majors, there's still a way that you can tie your major to IT or find a way to make IT useful in other departments. What was really interesting for me to see, really eye-opening for me to see, is that without IT, a lot of the other departments like would not work. So IT kind of puts everything together by enabling the tools that people need to do that. So wherever you guys are at, like whatever your focus in, whether it's like writing or graphic design or even something that's has nothing to do with computer science, right now in the age that we live in, like tech is very important for all avenues. So just explore whatever you can take from IT and try to implement it to whatever your passion is.
Great. Thank you so much. I know we kind of touched on this last question already and kind of sharing some advice, you know, that you would give OIT student ambassadors. So we won't go into that too much because I think you touched on that quite a bit. But I'd love to, we want to provide lots of opportunity to ask questions, and it doesn't necessarily have to be from the ambassadors, it could be from the advisors as well. So I'd love to open up to have everyone ask any questions of our panelists.
I wonder if you can tell us if there was anything surprising or unexpected that emerged from working for OIT, something that you didn't anticipate going in that ended up being a really important insight or experience for you.
I always thought it was really great how y'all would like really let the designers lead as far as some of the projects y'all gave us. I remember one of the first projects that I thought was kind of unexpected to me was when y'all kind of let the hackathon branding and marketing all pretty much up to us. And that was the first time that I felt like I collaborated with people in a professional setting, because it was like me and I want to say don't know if I remember Robert, he was there, and someone else, and I think Alyssa as well. And we all had to like sit down and figure out how we were gonna make this event, how are we gonna get people to want to go to this event. And so, you know, each of us kind of took on a part. And I got to design the poster for the event. And I thought that was really cool because it was a very, you know, I got a lot of feedback on it. And I also got to ask for feedback. And I think I was just nervous because I was like, everyone's going to see this poster. And it was like my big debut or whatever. Not really, but at the same time, I was like really nervous about it because it was going to be seen from people like beyond the campus. So at the time, it was a really big deal. But I think that was definitely the first time I did something like that as a young designer. And that also made me feel more confident in the internship that I got right after, which was at a concert management company local to town that did a bunch of, you know, they manage artists like at Mohawk, at Stubbs and all that. And I also right immediately after that, I got an internship doing posters for them. So that was like really cool. And I felt like it gave me the confidence to like do something like that and be more experimental and create something fun and be more, you know, just like own my skills. So yeah, I would say that was unexpected. And I didn't see myself as an illustrator at the time. So yeah, really cool.
Something that surprised me about being a part of OIT was this, like how creative we were able to be no matter what major we were in. It's just that y'all kind of just gave us the freedom to do whatever, not whatever we wanted. It had to be related to school, obviously, but we were able to use whatever tools y'all had for us at hand. And I think, especially with like the access to all our equipment. I mean, I don't know if y'all remember Edalise. She took advantage of that voiceover stuff and she's gone pretty far with voiceover now. I was able to use all the Creative Cloud and learn all the ins and outs. And you never really stop learning Adobe, but I learned quite a bit for someone who was barely figuring out how to use that software. For when I graduated, I knew how to do a lot of retouching, which is a lot of what I do now. Just being able to use everything and how that's applied to my current job now. So I think, yeah, what surprised me was just like, no matter what your major was, we had the liberty to be as creative as we wanted.
I noticed that a lot of students just didn't really interact with what the school was, hosting in terms of events. So for example, like some of the projects that I worked on, like the posters I created for certain things, there were actually not a lot of people that like would interact with that kind of stuff. And it kind of just got me thinking, I'm like, oh wow, like what other opportunities around campus are happening like every day that we aren't really seeing a lot of. And so it sort of, got me thinking about whether I was participating in that stuff. And so I sort of took a deep dive into it a little bit and saw like, oh, there's like clubs and campuses or clubs and organizations hosting this, OIT is hosting this on these dates, and just sort of threw myself into those because, and I guess I would also just encourage everyone else, any students to really go into those events because you'd be surprised at like the freebies that they give out. But another thing I guess is also just company culture. OIT, I really wasn't sure like what the company culture of OIT was like, or like what I was really getting myself into or what to expect from that, since I didn't really have many other jobs before OIT. But coming into it, everyone was really, really open-minded, really, really friendly, really encouraging in terms of like the creative stuff. And so, I got a lot of encouragement from coworkers on like, oh, you want to pursue this idea? Sure, yeah, let's do that. At one point I was thinking of making like an animation for something, and Jesse had offered to do some voiceover work for that. And also in terms of like workplace collaboration, that was my first time sort of collaborating with someone creatively, because for the most part, I had been just like trying to learn graphic design by myself and working on a lot of individual projects. But I remember at OIT, there was an assignment where I had to create this sort of tech report based on like some surveys, like freshman technology survey or something like that. And I was supposed to work on like half of it in my style and then like collaborate with Tate Sarazinski on the other half of the project. And so that was sort of my first time really collaborating with someone creatively sharing ideas, talking about like, okay, this is the aesthetic, this is the direction we want to take, and having meetings about that and going through that process together. And that was just something that I wasn't really expecting going to. I kind of thought that it would just be like, you know, oh, we need you to make this, just make this, you know. But I was pretty delighted to find that like, oh, there are other creative people working here that I can talk to and share with. So.
I would say a nice surprise for me working under OIT in the library and the archive was kind of being exposed to the more fun side of, you know, library and archive work. I mean, I think all of it is fun, but I would say like event planning, engagement with the community was not really something that I had thought about as part of the job before I started working at the library. And so in addition to the more tailored projects that I was working on, I also got to be more involved with the events that the archive and the library was hosting, and learn more about that. And that's something that really appeals to me. I've always been a planner, a party planner, and so learning that and getting to participate in that, for example, Travis's screening of The Room, that's always going to stick in my mind as, you know, working in a library doesn't have to be boring.
I think something unexpected in terms of like what I learned was also similar to what some of the other panelists covered, is kind of that human element to work. So you have your coworkers. You also want to like break kind of that fourth wall, so to speak, a little bit every now and then to like see how they are as like persons. Like I think something surprising sometimes, and I would have conversations with Dave about this, is you see someone who's like this like senior like developer, like just like this architect that is doing super tech heavy stuff, and then you like have a conversation with them and they're like reading War and Peace, or they're like reading like Proust, or like something that has nothing to do with IT or something like that. So I think just being able to have that conversation, have those connections with people outside of always the like the hard structure of the coworker dynamic is something that I think is very modern, and I think that's where a lot of work is going nowadays, that you can expand like some of those interests between people, between your coworkers. At the end of the day, you're seeing them very often, like every day. Like for people that are in person, you're seeing them almost every day, especially the people that you're working close to. So I think just learning how much better work can be when you add some of those like fun elements that don't necessarily have to be all about you know, like fixing a computer or like other IT related stuff. Like there's going to be in between times that are actually really fulfilling as part of the job that don't relate to the actual like day to day, so to speak.
Yes, Ian.
Did you ever find yourself prioritizing the OIT work over academic work?
No, I had perfect time management. Okay. No, I think I, as far as like OIT work, y'all are really, I mean, y'all closed at 5. So I was really good about just like, you know, oh, we're closing. I at least had that boundary going on, because as a college student, it is hard to like manage all your homework and all the projects you're doing and all that. So I think the fact that we were able to have a designated area to do our work and hours was really good in terms of time management. But I think the time that I did spend on it was certain projects, like the poster I mentioned, or like the videos. It was really fulfilling work, especially for a student. And so I don't think I ever prioritized it too much, but like I think when I was there, I was definitely good at prioritizing, the projects I had during my work hours.
The same for me. I was kind of always running around when I was in OIT because I was photographing different things. I remember one time I think the library put on like a light show that they screened on the library, and I had to go photograph that, and it was like pretty late. It was like already 8 or 9 at night, and I remember having to like I forgot about it, and then I remember having to run up the hill because at the time it was like I was at the dorm. I forgot what the name of the dorm is at the bottom of the hill, but I had to run from up there to get there on time because they were about to start screening it. And I think for the most part that was like the only time that I did not manage my time correctly because I had to be there. And it was already dark and my friends wanted to go out or something. I was like, no guys, I have to go do this. I clocked my hours for it or whatever. And I was only there for like half an hour. I got like all the shots I needed, and then I edited them in bulk that night and sent them to Eric in Dropbox, I think. But other than that, it was pretty good time management because you get to work around your schedule.
When I was working there, they asked me, what's my class schedule, and then they asked me like what times would work best for me in terms of like where can we put these blocks so that adds up to like a certain amount of hours each week. But I don't think there was ever a time when I was like stressed between, oh, I have to get this done or I have to really meet this deadline. Everyone's very friendly and very sort of flexible about that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any specific memories of that because nothing ever happened where my time management was like screwed up and stuff. Because for me personally, I'm a very like deadline oriented checkbox kind of person. So like, yeah, but that's not to say like my time management was perfect. There are actually a few times where I kind of just nodded off and accidentally fell asleep while working.
One of the best parts about having an on-campus job is the understanding that you get from, your supervisor and being able to work around your class schedule. And I thought there was a really good delineation of, when you're at work, you're doing your work and not worrying about school. But then when you're not, working for OIT, you're not expected to do things outside of work. But I mean, I only worked for OIT for like the summer and the fall right before I was about to graduate. And at the time I was working at OIT and then 2 other jobs. And I'd been working since I was very young. So I think I had already kind of developed those time management skills of just whenever you have a spare moment, even if it's like 20 minutes, you can get a little chunk of something done. And I would come after class and have 30 minutes until my shift started and just sit at my desk back in the archive and get some reading done or something whenever I had a little spare second.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it never really invaded like my time that I really would have needed for schoolwork. But that's not to say that in terms of like interest level, as I got to senior year, I was just like ready to work. Honestly, like after you start actually making some impact and seeing how these projects are like being delivered, and I think once I started getting a taste of like that real-time impact versus just like an arbitrary deadline to learn how to do something that you're gonna work for eventually, it was just so much more satisfying to just be doing a real thing. So it was top of mind, but it didn't like invade any time that I would have needed for studying or something. It was very flexible.
Good question. Yeah. Any other questions?
What do you miss about St. Ed's?
The snacks. The OIT snacks.
What do you miss about St. Edward's?
I think I definitely miss just the supportive environment. Like I mentioned, I was a camp student. So I was constantly getting support and had cheerleaders. Same thing with OIT. Joanna and Eric have always been great cheerleaders and always offered support and have kept up with me throughout the years. And so I think I just miss a lot of the people. I'm actually on the campus pretty often because I'm always in the arts building as well. I work with Jimmy Liu. He's a design professor and he's honestly like one of my best friends and we're always hanging out too. So he doesn't drag me, but he's always inviting me to St. Edward's for like art openings or to also speak to like young design students. And so I feel like I don't get that much time to miss St. Edward's because I'm there pretty often, but I do miss interacting with all the people from the day to day.
I miss the walkable community. It was so easy to see everybody and, going to Joe's, going to see my friends in the camp office. That's probably what I miss the most, getting to see everyone every day, because like once you graduate, you don't see everyone every day. So you start to drift away from your friends, but I still keep in touch with most people in camp since we were so tight knit for 4 years. But I would say that's probably what I miss the most. I actually work, so Four Hands, where I work now, is on the other side of Woodward. So I still kind of see St. Edward's almost every day when I drive into work. You can see it right there. It's off the other side of 71. But I would say that's what I miss the most. I don't go on campus that much though, so maybe I'll drop by sometime soon after work or something.
For me, the one thing that I definitely miss most from the campus is just both the walkability and the shared spaces. So as you get older, you move somewhere and you have to drive everywhere. I mean, I just miss Austin in general because I love how close everything is. I can actually walk or take the bus there. Here in Dallas and even in Houston, I have to drive 20-30 minutes to get anywhere I want to. So yeah, I really miss having these shared community spaces. And while I know, deep down, I definitely took advantage of those spaces as much as I could during my time there. That just kind of makes it all the more nostalgic, now that I'm working in a different city and stuff. And if I want to go to any one of those shared spaces, I have to get in my car and drive 20-30 minutes to get there just to see strangers. So I definitely miss the shared communal aspect of St. Edward's, and also the snack bar at OIT was top notch. Absolutely. I even now I hit up the snack place here at my workplace all the time. So take advantage of free food while you can.
Let me just say, I don't remember any snack bar that I got access to.
You work in the archives.
Yeah, no food in the archives. But yeah, I would agree a lot. My experience was a little different just because I started school right before the pandemic. I started in 2019 and then I graduated quite early. So I only had 2 semesters on campus. That made me appreciate the on-campus college experience a lot more, and I kind of wish I got a little more of that. Like they were saying, the walkability, the community, and there's just something about being at school, especially if you live on campus or spend a lot of time on campus, you're kind of forced in a way to be a part of the community. It's hard to not do that. Not have friends, not, join things, be a part of things, because you're just always around it. You're surrounded by it. You don't have to necessarily seek it out as much as you do after you graduate.
Yeah, I think the IT community was always really special to me, especially the mentorships that I was able to develop, whether that was a direct spoken mentorship with David, or also with Danny or Tony, all the people that I felt I interacted with from the IT department really felt they either like had my back or had the best interest out there for me. Like they really cared about the students' futures, and I think that just gives such a great opportunity, especially at someone that age, to kind of expand your reach and be confident and just like try new things. So, yeah.
What would you change? What would add more value to your experience as being part of the OIT Student Ambassador Program? That's something that we like to learn from our current students. So please share if you haven't yet. But I would love to learn more about that from each of you.
Well, I think after seeing everything that was added to the library for OIT, I wish I could have been a part of that. That was really cool. There were so many new technology and spaces for creation. I don't know if I wouldn't change that now, but I wish like during my experience, I could have gotten to like participate more in that. That would have been really cool and take advantage of those resources. But other than that, I don't know what I would have changed. I just think getting access to those things would have been really cool. But other than that, I feel like it was just a really good work environment. And all the resources that were available at the time were available to me, and getting learning about new software and technology that I also saw in the workspaces was also like something that gave me an advantage. So I don't know if I would change anything, but I think keeping up with like all the latest like technology and also like letting students explore that is something that I would encourage to keep doing.
Yeah, I mean, I did get to use all that new stuff. I remember I helped Eric put up all those panels for the sound. And I don't know if it's still there, but there was also a room that was like a green screen room that we helped him put together too. So I think OIT is pretty perfect. Y'all do a really good job with keeping up with technology and teaching people how to use cameras and equipment, everything we had. I know there was a lot of new stuff that we didn't even know how to use. I think my last semester, we got like a really good sound system to use, like microphones and stuff. I think they were Rode microphones, really, really fancy stuff. Sorry, what was that?
The podcasting room, yeah.
Yeah, the podcasting room. So my friend and I, our last semester, Mirka, she also worked there because I told her to. But we started playing with all that stuff, and we had our own podcast for like one semester. It was really fun to do. It was a music podcast that we stopped doing it after we graduated because we didn't have all that cool equipment anymore. We're like, oh, well, the quality of our podcast is going to be pretty bad now because we don't have the OIT podcast room. So we just kind of like stopped. But no, I wouldn't change anything. I think just, I guess, updating stuff once.
Most of the stuff at OIT that I really, really liked was just the access to all the technology. So in addition to like the computer that I had, full access to the Adobe suite, which if anyone who's worked in design knows is pretty expensive. So being able to just use that stuff for free is like fantastic. And then like in the library itself, when I was there, they had, the podcast room. I think they also had a Cintiq, which is, it's a drawing tablet sort of, but it's screens that you can draw on the screen, which I had never really seen in person before because I could never afford it. So, taking advantage of all those different technologies is fantastic. If anything, more snacks, I guess, in the snack room. That's about it. I mean, I thought my experience at OIT was really great, and being able to have access to all that technology. Ooh, if anything, maybe throw in like an iPad or two. I don't know how often people have those, but for me personally, it wasn't until I got out of college and got my own iPad that I discovered how awesome Procreate was on there, which is an art app for drawing stuff. And I've been doing a lot of illustrative work on there, but I think that would be a nice resource for people to use.
I guess the only thing that I would really say is like being able to expand it and expose more students to, you know, what we were able to experience. Because I mean, specifically in the archive, I mean, it's a physically small space, and you know, there's one person that works in there. So it's like there's only so many students that can get that experience, but I just thought it was so valuable as a history major who wanted to go into archives and libraries to be able to have that firsthand experience, you know, through my education. So, I mean, not necessarily offering more positions, but maybe just like being able to expose students to that through class and stuff like that. Like, I know my history senior seminar class went to the archive, but maybe, you know, exposing students to that and to those opportunities even earlier.
That's a great suggestion. Right? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what she said. I had a fantastic experience, so there's not a lot that I would change, but I know that with us, the fact that we had an amazing experience, I feel like some other people didn't get to have that experience. So just any way that IT could expand to show that, or even if maybe some other departments could be encouraged to develop similar programs. Or even just like the areas of studies, like the different schools, for them to have more interactive, like hands-on experiences for the students.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all those insights, great suggestions on things that you would change or not change about the program. We'll definitely take those and hopefully expand the program and looking at all the advisors, and we're trying to move in that direction. We're already expanding in certain ways, but we'll definitely look at your suggestions and see what we could do. I know we're almost at the end of our time, and I'd love for us to be able to engage and chat and just enjoy some of the snacks that we have, even though I can't send them to you virtually. I apologize. But I'd love to, if you are online, if you don't mind hanging out, we will leave the camera on and people can come up to you and ask questions in the last 15 minutes. I know it'll be kind of loud, so if you are going to be asking any of the panelists that are on the camera, just kind of go to the camera and then ask the question if you don't mind. But everybody else, thank you so much for your time today. We know it takes a lot to work with schedules and take time out of your work to be here, to be, you know, even sick and be here. So thank you. And we hope to see you back on campus again. Stop by or send us emails so we can schedule some time to have coffee or things like that, just to kind of catch up and see how you're doing. One thing I will mention to all of the ambassadors is that the panelists are available to you if you have any questions. They've shared their LinkedIn profiles, their email addresses, so please reach out if you have any questions. And this is being recorded right now. We will share that out with the rest of the OIT student ambassadors that weren't able to be here today. I know it's been like really crazy weather, so we'll make sure and share that with everybody. And it's also being recorded in Zoom. So thank you, everybody. And now's your time to do open chat and enjoy the treats. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Oh my gosh. Edith, did you just present at a conference recently?
I did. I presented at a brand new conference, which was like insane to me. I had anxiety for like 2 months.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting. It's a big challenge, right? Presenting in such a large group of people. And I know how nerve-wracking that can be, but I was excited to see. I saw your post. I was like, you know, navigating, and I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it was a cool experience. I don't know if I want to speak in front of that many people again, but I'm glad I did.
you did it, you know, you learn from it, you move on, you're like, all right, did that, I'm good.
Yeah. So yeah, I would do it again. It was just I felt a lot of nervousness.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh. It was so funny. So one of my best friends, she used to be the director for the Jolt initiative. And, you know, I had made a contribution and I got some of the artwork that the posters because of the contributions that I had made. And I had noticed some of your artwork included, you know, a poster that you had made. And I was like, you made this.
Yeah.
So I put it up in my daughter's room. It's the one with the representation of the monarchs, the butterflies.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Statue of Liberty. I love that piece. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
I'll
and
have to give you a screen printed version of it.
oh, that would be amazing. I'll frame it, and yeah, I like to put that in their play space because they're young. They're 3 and 6, so they're pretty creative and like to see all that. So thank you. That would be nice.
Oh, thank you.
And Patty, I still owe you an email for taking pictures of the family. So I think I asked you like your last year and then I never took pictures. I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So-
actually, the last time I was on campus was for a photo shoot, just because it's like nice to photograph on campus. It's always like pretty and
oh yeah. I love some of I see some of your posts too on Instagram. So I love your especially with that camera. I don't know how old that camera is, but it's incredible work. So I love it. Sorry, I don't want to take away from questions.
Just wanted to say hello and thank you. I didn't get to know all of you while you were here, but my name is Casey. I'm currently the director of the library. It's been awesome getting to hear what you all have to say about your time here. It really makes me feel like we're on the right track. The things that OIT leadership right now values, not just in terms of like a student ambassador program, but like our how we manifest our values on campus in general, really explicitly trying to foreground leadership opportunities, community opportunities, creativity opportunities. That's most of what you guys talked about today. So that's really gratifying and inspiring to hear. So thank you for taking the time, especially those of you who are sick. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you. I feel like it's the least you can do.